This is the story of a Greek king who invited the gods over for dinner and tried to feed them his own son in a stew to see if they'd notice. If you watched the last video, I promised you war crime tier hosting. Welcome to that video. Today's character is Tantalus, beloved by the gods, invited to dine on Mount Olympus, one of the few mortals in all of mythology who got that honor. Friend of Zeus, genuinely had it made, and he threw it all away because he wanted to win a game of I bet you can't tell. This is the worst dinner party in Greek mythology, and it didn't just ruin him, it cursed his entire bloodline for the next 4 generations. We'll get to that. Tantalus is the son of Zeus and a nymph named Pluto, so, demigod. He rules a place called Sipylus in what's now Turkey, and because Zeus is his dad, he gets a perk no other mortal king has. A standing invitation to dinner on Olympus, eating ambrosia, drinking nectar, hearing what the gods talk about when they think no one's listening. Most people would be grateful. Tantalus is not. He starts stealing. He pockets ambrosia from the gods' table and brings it home to share with his mortal friends, which is, for context, like stealing classified intelligence and just posting it on Twitter. He also overhears divine secrets at these dinners and tells everyone. The gods notice. They don't kick him out yet. They're starting to wonder. And then Tantalus does the thing that makes him a name we still use 3,000 years later. He decides to throw a feast of his own, to repay the gods for all those dinners, to honor them. Or, and this is the version I love, to test them. He wants to know if the gods are really all-knowing, if they can really see everything, if they can really tell the difference between food and not food. So he comes up with a test that involves his son. Tantalus has 3 kids, a daughter, Niobe, and 2 sons, Proteus and Pelops. Pelops is the youngest, and the most beloved. He's a beautiful kid. Everyone loves Pelops. Tantalus kills Pelops. He butchers him, cuts him into pieces the same way you'd portion a sheep for a stew, and he cooks him into an actual stew, with herbs. Tantalus didn't do anything halfway. Then he invites the gods over. The gods show up. They sit down at the table. Tantalus serves them the stew. And, credit where credit is due, the gods clock this immediately. Apollo, Zeus, Athena, Artemis, all of them. They take one whiff and they know. They will not touch it. They sit there in dead silence, staring at the man who has just served them his murdered child in a soup. Except for one of them. Demeter, goddess of harvest, mother of Persephone, is at this dinner, and she is going through it. Her daughter has just been abducted to the underworld by Hades. She's been wandering the earth in mourning for weeks. She hasn't slept. She hasn't eaten. So when the stew lands in front of her, she is not paying attention. She is not sniffing the bowl. She is grief-eating. She takes a bite. She gets a piece of Pelops' shoulder. The other gods, watching this happen in real time, react. Hard. Split here. Zeus does 2 things at once. First, he resurrects Pelops. The gods take all the cooked pieces out of the stew, put them in a magic cauldron, and Pelops comes back to life. Whole, breathing, alive. With one problem, the bite Demeter ate is gone. There's a chunk of his shoulder missing. So Hephaestus, the blacksmith god, carves him a replacement out of ivory. From that point on, Pelops walks around with an ivory shoulder. He grows up to be a chariot-driving prince and eventually a king. The Peloponnese, that entire region of southern Greece, is literally named after him. He's fine. Tantalus is not fine. Zeus throws him into Tartarus, the deepest pit of the Greek underworld, the place reserved for people who weren't just bad, they were cosmically offensive, and Zeus gives him a punishment so iconic that we made it into a word in every language descended from Greek. Tantalus is placed standing in a pool of clear cold water, up to his neck. Above him hangs a tree branch, heavy with perfect ripe fruit. He is starving. He is parched. He reaches down to drink. The water recedes, pulls away from his lips. He reaches up for fruit. The branch lifts, just out of reach. Forever. This is where we get the word tantalize. 3,000 years later, every time someone says, "That's tantalizing," They are quoting the Greeks. They are referencing this specific man in this specific pool, reaching for things he will never have. That's not even the worst part. The worst part is what happened to Tantalus's family. Pelops, the resurrected son, grows up, has kids of his own. Two of his sons are Atreus and Thyestes. Atreus, following Grandpa's playbook, kills Thyestes' sons and serves them to him in a stew. Yes, again. The exact same crime, 1 generation later. Atreus has 2 sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus. Agamemnon sacrifices his own daughter Iphigenia to get good wins for the Trojan War. His wife Clytemnestra murders him for it. Their son Orestes murders her in revenge. 4 generations. Cannibalism, child sacrifice, betrayal, murder. All triggered by 1 dinner party. The Greeks called it the curse of the house of Atreus. But it started here, with Tantalus, the man who broke the most sacred rule the Greeks had, Xenia, the bond between host and guest. The trust that says, when you eat at my table, I will not harm you. When I eat at your table, I will not betray you. Tantalus broke it from both sides at once. He betrayed the gods as a host. He betrayed his son as a father. So the Greeks said, the bill for that meal will come due again, and again, and again, for as long as your bloodline exists. The Greeks occasionally were really smart. Next time, we're going somewhere completely different. Medusa, the so-called monster who was actually the victim. The cursed woman whose real villains were the gods who blamed her for surviving them. Subscribe so you don't miss it. I'm the Goose. Don't host dinner.